Warning! Oh no! Oh no! FBI? Who is this FBI? What are they trying to warn us about?
There are very few things in this world that can make one lose credibility faster than predicting the end of said world and being wrong. One would think. That is, of course, unless you are completely incredulous with a flock of the same ilk. No, same ilk.
Rise! More action! Ramos!
Same difference, I guess.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in my tree on the other side of Central Park, exploiting other squirrels into an abject life of anxiety while collecting nuts for the coming winter. Yet you all come to us squirrels for hope and to dress us up in adorable costumes and make us water ski. And how dare you? You have stolen my childhood! And access to yummy bird feed by placing a disc on the pole that leads to the bird feeder, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. I know how to get around that shit, but other squirrels are dying! Entire birdhouses are collapsing on top of them! Today, Central Park. Tomorrow, the world!
Holy shit! Holy shit! Holy shit!
The global climate strike is what happens when you pump fear and hysteria straight into the veins of political propaganda lightweights. You see, some of us, we've built up a tolerance to this shit over the years. Some of us are also old enough to remember, or just smart enough to know, that this isn't the first time we've been told, the end is nigh! In the 80s, we were all 1 minute from midnight of the day after, and all that big hair was making a hole in the ozone layer, with the UN closing the 80s out by predicting global warming would destroy entire nations by 2000. In the 90s, everyone was frantically wanting to save everything. Save the rainforest, save the burrow owls.
Anyway, 10:30 the other night, I go out in my yard, and there's the worker kid looking up in the tree. I say, what are you looking for? So I'm looking for my burrow owl. I say, jumping Jesus on a pogo stick. Everybody knows the burrow owl lives in a hole in the ground. Why the hell do you think they call it a burrow owl anyway?
At the turn of the century, it was Y2K. Everything is going to crash. All computers, crash! Planes will fall from the skies, crash! Satellites plummeting to Earth, crash! The banking systems will collapse.
Engines stop running, but I have no fear, 'cause London is drowning.
I live by the river. So better stock up on water. And then the end of the Mayan calendar in 2012. That was really on December 21st, but that didn't stop anyone who wasn't aware of that fact from freaking out that they weren't going to wake up on January 1st, or that you know what, I don't know what they fucking thought, but that is a perfect example of what this kind of global warming rhetoric can do to a young, impressionable mind. I worked with a young guy back in 2012. He was probably about 17, so the same age as most of these kids who ditched school for the climate strike, and he was terrified. I mean, terrified, absolutely panic-stricken that the world was going to end because some fucking Mayan in 3400 BC decided that a 5,412-year calendar was a good enough start. And many of these problems never go away. Big 80s hair aside, they just lose that momentum, and before you know it, boom! Ben & Jerry's discontinues your flavor, and you're off to that, it's getting better now, no need to worry so much, not so great hole in the sky! But that doesn't stop a huckster. Huckster's got a hux, I reckon. Now, that's where your organized religion comes in, you see? Meh.
Yeah.
For a group of people so opposed to and skeptical of organized religion, except for Islam for some fucking reason, but that too might be changing, the left sure seems to have embraced the fundamental principles of it. From setting aside 1 day a week to not eat meat, only they chose Mondays instead of Fridays. Tell me why I don't like Mondays. Tell me why. to climate confessionals, where they can absolve themselves of everything from drinking with a plastic straw, the fact that they do nothing on a daily basis to actually help the environment, and for worshiping false idols. Who am I kidding about that one? And if you think I'm being hyperbolic about the false idols thing, the Church of Sweden has just proclaimed Greta Thunberg the successor of Christ. I mean, Jesus!
Yes.
What?
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 Yes.
Jesus.
What?
Yes.
What?
You said what?
What?
Nothing.
I guess that makes AOC the successor of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And don't you have to at least perform a few miracles to even be considered a saint, let alone the second coming? I mean, this girl couldn't even cure fucking bacon! And like religion, they tell you that if you don't behave in a certain way and do certain things that they dictate as appropriate, you are going to burn in hell. Or, in this case, burn in a hell on earth. And only a 16-year-old autistic Swede can save you from this cruel fate. But there's a sucker born every minute, and that's 525,600 suckers a year.
525,600 suckers. How do you measure a year?
So, how many times do they have to be wrong in their predictions before people stop believing it? Or is it simply a question of the naivety of youth and or impressionable minds? Or even, possibly, a case of not learning from history? Are their beliefs based on careful research and facts? Are they rational or emotional? Or is it simply because someone said so?
They really try very hard. And then every time that you say, though, you want to, I want to ask a question. No question. You just believe us. Every time you say, can we have a little debate? I don't understand your facts. Can you explain to me? They just say, no. Al Gore says so.
How much faith do they really have in climate change? As much faith as the Millerites? And if they don't sound familiar to many of you, that's because they don't exist anymore. Well, not exactly. You see, back in the 1840s, a man named William Miller predicted through math in the Bible that Jesus would return in 1844, with his associate Samuel Snow pegging the date as October 22nd, 1844, which means that the 175th anniversary of this event just passed last week. An event that became known as the Great Disappointment. Now, this isn't like a final season Game of Thrones Great Disappointment. You see, by the time October 22nd, 1844 rolled around, thousands of people were convinced that Jesus was indeed coming. Many sold their homes, their businesses, and gave away all their personal belongings to the church. Which doesn't make any fucking sense, but anyway, needless to say, they were disappointed. Greatly. Because, spoilers, Jesus did not come back. The Millerites all but dissolved after that, with only a few remaining souls whose faith could not be shaken. They concluded the date was right, but the event was wrong. Yeah. That must be it!
And to make a long story short,
Too late.
The Millerites eventually became the Seventh-day Adventists, who, in case you haven't guessed, are still waiting for Jesus! Then there's the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Excuse me, we'd like you to have this flower.
Excuse me, sir, would you...
Donation to the Reverend Moon.
Juice for Jesus?
Read about Jehovah's Witness? How about Buddhism?
Help Jerry's kids.
Oh, yeah.
Scientology.
Or nuclear power?
The Jehovah's Witnesses have predicted Armageddon no less than 5 times. Count them, folks, that's 5! This is where I really found the parallels between organized religion, some might even say a doomsday cult, and climate alarmists. Some might even say a doomsday cult to be unparalleled. The following is a clip from Awake magazine. For those of you blissfully unaware enough to not know what Awake is, let me be the cannonball in your Zen pool. Awake is an illustrated religious magazine published every 4 months by Jehovah's Witnesses via the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania. Now, tell me if this sounds familiar. Today, there is a great crowd of people who are confident that a destruction of even greater magnitude is now imminent. The evidence is that Jesus' prophecy will shortly have a major fulfillment upon this entire system of things. This has been a major factor in influencing many couples to decide to not have
Wait a minute. Strike that. Reverse it. Thank you.
children at this time. That being from a November of 1974 issue. Simply replace Jesus' prophecy with the global warming predictions and you have a paragraph ripped straight from any article written about climate alarmists or climate anxiety sufferers.
Is it okay to still have children? The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
If I don't think the future is worth anything, then I'm not going to have children. If I think it is worth something, I will have children.
I've already known my entire life that one day I'd love to adopt children, but even now, when you put climate change on top of that, I know that I want to, perhaps have one less child than I thought I would maybe have, if I can even have a child biologically. I don't know.
And I could just go on and on and on about that shit, but I don't want to drag this video out forever.
Too late!
This is MIT professor of meteorology, Dr. Richard Lindzen, and he not only thinks worrying about whether the climate is going up or down is a bit weird.
The Earth is always changing. Climate change is nothing you have to prove. It always is happening. It always has happened. So to make that into something alarming seems to me a little bit weird.
But he also can't help but make a casual connection between climate change alarmists and religion.
It's very much a matter of the unchallengeable assertion. All religions have dogmas. Dogmas are not proven statements, they're assertions that cannot be challenged. It doesn't mean they're false. I'm not even suggesting that. I'm simply suggesting that it's a bad idea to have anything that can't be challenged.
Dr. Lindzen also finds claims about rising sea levels to be dubious at best. Are sea levels rising at an alarming rate? Or is it simply a combination of land erosion and that the instrumentation has changed? Like the use of NASA satellites over the last 30 years that offer us more accurate data.
The general feeling is there is no evidence that it's different now than it has been for the last few thousand years. It's been slowly rising ever since the initial rapid rise after the deglaciation 12,000 years ago. The claim that we've suddenly seen a big change in that, given we've changed the instrumentation and given the error bars cover the difference, is not entirely fair.
Another problem is information being cherry-picked and data being tweaked to make things seem far more dire than they really are. For example, let's look at this shot over here. This is a classic example of the kind of things that climate alarmists love to do. This graph shows global temperature anomalies since 1880 through to the current year, and from -4 degrees to 6 degrees Celsius. And my God, look at that spike starting in the 80s.
All of you are gonna die!
Now, let's look at the same chart, same timeline, but from -10 to 100 degrees. That straight line at the bottom is the same line we just saw here. Yeah, that's right. This is this! My goodness, whatever are we going to do? Well, I don't know about you, but I'm gonna get out of here. So please remember to comment, like, share, subscribe! Go for the ring, grab the bull by the horns, grab it by the pussy, god damn it, and thank you so much for watching.
Tell me, are polar bears seriously in danger?
At the moment, no, they are not. In fact, polar bears are thriving.
Stop global warming. Start global cooling. Make the world a giant icebox. I like it.
Stand outside with an aerosol can, like, That's right. Screw the grandkids. I'm cold now.
It does not lead to a death of billions. I mean, aren't you scaring people with this rhetoric, aren't you?
Unfortunately, alarmist language works.
Outsiders was also one of the first shows to repeatedly highlight in our Ice Age Watch segment the great work of Dr. Susan Crockford, a Canadian academic who not only says that polar bears are thriving, but who also belled the cat, as it were, on David Attenborough's fraudulent recent use story about dead walruses. Last week, Dr. Crockford was fired.